The sun had barely dipped below the horizon when I set out on my evening jog, the cool breeze offering a welcome reprieve from the sweltering heat of the day. As I made my way through the familiar streets of my neighborhood, a sense of tranquility washed over me, the rhythmic pounding of my footsteps echoing in the stillness of the evening. Yet as I rounded the corner onto Maple Avenue, a feeling of unease prickled at the back of my neck, a subtle shift in the atmosphere that I couldn't quite shake. Ignoring the sensation, I quickened my pace, eager to reach the halfway point of my route before nightfall. But as I approached the old oak tree at the edge of the park, a chill swept through me, the air growing thick with an oppressive weight that seemed to suffocate my every breath. Heart pounding, I came to a halt, my eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of movement. And then, from the shadows emerged a figure, its form obscured by the cloak of night. Frozen in fear, I watched as it drew nearer, the sound of its footsteps echoing like a drumbeat in the silence. My mind raced with thoughts of danger, of the stories I had heard of muggings and attacks in the park at night. Instinct told me to run, to flee from whatever sinister presence lurked in the darkness. But something held me in place, a strange mix of curiosity and dread that rooted me to the spot. As the figure loomed before me, its face hidden beneath a hooded cloak, I braced myself for the inevitable confrontation, but instead of lunging forward with malice in its eyes, the figure merely whispered a cryptic warning before vanishing into the night. Shaken to my core, I stumbled home, the memory of that fateful encounter burning bright in my mind like a beacon in the darkness. Sleep eluded me that night as I tossed and turned, haunted by the lingering sense of unease that clung to me like a shadow. In the days that followed, I tried to push the encounter to the back of my mind, to convince myself that it was nothing more than a figment of my imagination. But no matter how hard I tried to rationalize it away, the feeling of being watched persisted, a constant presence that hovered at the edge of my consciousness. And then, one evening as I was walking home from work, I felt it again. That familiar prickling sensation at the back of my neck, the weight of someone's gaze boring into me from the shadows. Heart pounding, I glanced around, searching for the source of my unease. And there, across the street, stood the figure from the park, its hooded cloak billowing in the breeze. Panic surged through me as I realized that it had followed me, that whatever it was, it meant me harm. Without a second thought, I broke into a run, the sound of my footsteps echoing in the empty streets as I fled from the looming threat behind me. And though I managed to escape that night, the memory of the figure in the cloak haunted me, a constant reminder that sometimes the truest terrors are the ones we cannot see. As the days turned into weeks, I found myself consumed by paranoia, my every waking moment plagued by the fear that the figure would return to finish what it had started. And though I tried to go about my daily life as normal, the specter of that encounter hung over me like a dark cloud, casting a shadow over everything I did. In the end, it was a burden too heavy to bear, and I found myself retreating further and further into isolation, desperate to escape the relentless grip of fear that had taken hold of me. And though I may never know the true identity of the figure in the cloak, its presence will forever linger in the darkest corners of my mind, a chilling reminder of the night that changed everything. When it came to the abandoned house at the end of our street, it never came to mind until curiosity got the better of me one summer afternoon. Ignoring the neighborhood tales of its eerie past, I pushed open the rusty gate, its hinges groaning in protest. Inside, the air was thick with dust and memories long forgotten. As I explored the decrepit rooms, a sense of unease settled over me, amplified by the creaks and whispers of the old building. Yet it was in the attic that I uncovered a photo album, its pages filled with faces frozen in time. Among them, a woman's haunting gaze seemed to follow me, her eyes holding a sadness I couldn't shake. Intrigued, I delved deeper into her story, unraveling a tale of love and loss that had long been buried within the walls of the house. But as dusk fell and shadows danced across the walls, a chill crept into my bones, whispering warnings of a darkness that lurked just beyond the edge of my understanding. Ignoring my instincts, I remained in the attic, determined to uncover the truth. Yet, when I reached the final page of the album, a blood-curdling scream tore through the silence, sending me scrambling for the exit. As I stumbled out into the fading light, I couldn't shake the feeling of eyes watching me from the shadows, their gaze filled with a hunger that chilled me to the core. And though I never returned to the abandoned house, the memory of that fateful day haunted me, a reminder that some secrets are better left buried in the past. In the weeks that followed, I tried to shake off the lingering unease that had settled in my bones, but the memory of that scream refused to fade. Night after night, I found myself haunted by nightmares of the woman from the photo album, her sorrowful eyes following me wherever I went. Desperate for answers, I scoured the internet for any mention of her name, but the results only deepened the mystery surrounding her disappearance. And then, one rainy night, as I lay awake in bed, a soft tapping echoed through the silence, drawing me to the window like a moth to a flame. There, standing in the downpour, was the woman from the photo album, her ghostly figure illuminated by the flickering streetlights. Frozen in fear, I watched as she beckoned me closer, her voice a haunting melody that sent shivers down my spine. And though every instinct screamed for me to run, I couldn't bring myself to look away, captivated by the sadness in her eyes. And as she vanished into the night, leaving nothing but a trail of rain-soaked footprints in her wake, I knew that I would never be free from the secrets that lay buried within the abandoned house at the end of our street. Never in my life did I expect my routine midnight shift at the old textile factory to turn into a nightmare. With the whirring of ancient machinery as my only companion, I patrolled the dimly lit corridors, my flashlight casting eerie shadows on the peeling walls. As I reached the storage area, a shiver ran down my spine, though I shrugged it off as mere exhaustion. Yet as I scanned the rows of dusty crates, I caught a glimpse of movement out of the corner of my eye. Heart racing, I aimed my flashlight toward the source, only to find nothing but empty silence. Brushing it off as my imagination, I continued my rounds, each creak and groan of the building echoing in my ears. But as I neared the exit, a cold hand clamped down on my shoulder, sending me stumbling backward in terror. Whirling around, I found myself face to face with a figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with an otherworldly malice. Frozen with fear, I could only watch as it whispered a chilling warning before vanishing into the night. My pulse still racing, I stumbled out of the factory, the icy grip of fear refusing to loosen its hold on me. The cool night air did little to soothe my frayed nerves as I made my way home, the memory of that sinister encounter replaying in my mind like a broken record. Arriving at my doorstep, I fumbled for my keys, desperate to seek refuge within the safety of my own home. Yet, even as I stepped inside and locked the door behind me, a lingering sense of unease lingered, casting a shadow over the sanctuary I had sought. Sleep eluded me that night, plagued by visions of the dark figure and its haunting warning. As days turned into weeks, I tried to convince myself that it was nothing more than a trick of the mind, a product of fatigue and overactive imagination. But no matter how hard I tried to shake off the feeling of dread, it clung to me like a stubborn shadow. I avoided passing by the factory, unable to face the memories it held, yet its presence loomed over me like a specter, a constant reminder of the terror I had endured. And then, one fateful night, as I lay awake in bed, consumed by fear and uncertainty, I heard it, a soft whisper, barely audible yet unmistakably chilling. The same warning uttered by the dark figure in the depths of the factory, now echoing through the silence of my own home. With trembling hands, I reached for the phone, desperate for reassurance, for some semblance of safety in this waking nightmare. But as I dialed the number, a cold realization washed over me like a tidal wave. There was no one on the other end, no salvation to be found in the outside world. For I was alone, trapped in the clutches of a terror that defied reason and logic, a darkness that threatened to consume me whole. And as the whisper grew louder, its words dripping with a chilling certainty, I knew that I was doomed to face this nightmare alone, with no hope of escape.